addressing the place of artists and digital technology for the development of creative economy. My name is Toussaint Tiendrebeogo. I'm the chief of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions entity at UNESCO, and I am honored to moderate this important discussion today. The title of this session is, Why do we need to focus on artists and digital technology for the development of creative economy? This session is very timely because we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has paralyzed the creative economy around the world. The health crisis has revealed and worsened the pre-existing vulnerabilities within the culture sector. While we increased our consumption of cultural contents online more than ever before, artists and creators rarely receive fair remuneration for our clicks and views. A recent study of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on creative and cultural industries in Europe highlighted that the drop in revenues may reach 90% for performing arts and 75% for music between 2019 and 2020. But the health crisis also shown us how essential creativity is for our well-being and to our survival. Developing a resilient creative economy is crucial. However, it is impossible without addressing the question of equitable socio-economic rights of creative workers to enable them to keep making art. The UNESCO 1980 recommendation on the status of artists already addresses this concern, notably the lack of economic stability of social security nets for creative workers. But the informality of the working conditions is still a present issue in many countries. For instance, in a study in Panama on the creative sector, covering the beginning of the pandemic up to December 2020, 59% of the surveyed professionals declared having no social security. The sanitary crisis and lockdown measures have accelerated more broadly the digital transition for culture. Streaming subscription increased, transforming practices of culture consumption as audiences adapt to the situations and engage in the digital creative economy. But before the digital transition can benefit everyone in the creative value chain, including creators, several pressing challenges specific to the online work environment need to be addressed. In October 2020, UNESCO published a Culture in Crisis policy guide for a resilient creative sector. The publication presents concrete measures to protect creative workers, to address the digital challenges, among other measures, to highlight the good practices already undertaken by many countries around the world. The year 2021 is the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. This International Year could not come at a more relevant time than now, considering that the global economic recovery in the new reality is a major priority today, and that the creative sector is expected to play a major role in the recovery process. During this year, it is essential to fundamentally address the status of artists and rethink the economic ecosystem of the digital environment so that artists, are granted fair remuneration to actively continue creating in the recovery process. To discuss these important matters, I'm honored to have three distinguished panelists with us today. His Excellency Mr. Felipe Buitrago is the Minister of Culture in Colombia. Mr. Buitrago has over 16 years experience in issues related to the creative economy. He has been actively working on the design, implementation, and evaluation of public policies for the development of creative entrepreneurship and the appropriation of new technologies. Ms. Nguyen Phuong Hoa is the Director General of the International Cooperation Departments at the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism of Vietnam. Ms. Nguyen Phuong Hoa has been working for the ministry over the past 2 decades. She is Vietnam's national contact point for the UNESCO 2005 Convention on the protection and the promotion of diversity of cultural expressions. And our last panelist is Ms. Juliana Akoryo, Commissioner for Culture and Family Affairs of the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development in Uganda. Ms. Akoryo has over 30 years experience in the formulation, design, and implementation of culture and creative industries programs in Uganda. She coordinated the development of the Culture and Creative Economy Action Plan 2015-2021 in Uganda. Welcome to our panelists. Given that we only have 1 hour together, I would like to ask the panelists to keep their responses to 5 minutes each. Let us now begin. My first question is for Mr. Buitrago. Your Excellency, it is well known that Colombia is a global pioneer of the creative economy, which is also known as the orange economy in the Latin American region. The President of Colombia, His Excellency Mr. Iván Duque, has shown strong leadership in this regard. You have been playing an instrumental role in spearheading the government's support system to strengthen this economy. Can you tell us how and why Colombia has come to focus on the creative economy as the priority sector for the country's sustainable development? What are the challenges of this creative economy in Latin America in general and in Colombia in particular? And what measures has your government put in place in recent years to address them? What investment legislations, regulatory frameworks, and digital infrastructure should be put in place for the development of the creative economy? Please, Your Excellency.
Well, thank you very much, Toussaint. It's a pleasure to be here. A warm salute to my colleagues from Vietnam, Mrs. Nguyen, I hope I'm pronouncing it well, and Mrs. Juliana. For us in Colombia, and for me in particular, it's a pleasure to be here in representation of my president, Mr. Iván Duque. And well, Colombia has been actually implementing the 2005 convention even way before it was enacted and way before we actually adopted it formally in 2013. Colombia, because of a call in the late 1990s by the Inter-American Development Bank, adopted what we called back then the Economy and Culture Project. And we embarked upon the measurement of the culture, of the economic impact of the cultural industries in the country. At first, you can imagine, we had very little points of reference, maybe some initial studies in Europe, but nothing really structured in terms of methodology. So we had to come back and develop our own tools for measurement. And thus we became, back in 2007, the first country to publish a satellite account on culture. We have now evolved this concept into a full-fledged national information system for the orange economy, as we call it now here. And over the years, we developed policies and we have been enacting different tools in order to promote the creative industries. But maybe two elements have to be highlighted. Back in 2010, we enacted our first policy for the promotion of the cultural industries. And then 7 years later, in 2017, we enacted our first creative economy or orange economy law. In that law, we have created key institutions that I think are very important to consider. The most important, I believe, is the National Council for the Orange Economy, where we articulate 12 national agencies, of which 7 are ministries. And we also have an extended council with over 25 agencies, where we have made cultural development a transversal concern of the state, not the government, the state. So if we need to develop digital policies, well, the Ministry of Culture is not the one in charge of connectivity. That's the ICT ministry. So we engage with them in order to articulate connectivity policy with content creation policy. The same happens when we speak about social inclusion in terms of a social safety network. We engage with the labor ministry. If we need to promote access to finance, we engage with Bancoldex, our second tier bank for the support of industrial development, and so on. So we can work transversally across all the needs of the cultural and creative ecosystem, regardless if it is about industrial policy or if it's something related with budgeting or measurement. There's always an agency that can complement the work of the Ministry of Culture. Of course, that does not mean that we have solved all our troubles. We have many challenges, as you can imagine. One of those challenges, of course, is to formalize the work of creatives. It does not mean to set them into a box so they can think in one way. It means actually just to provide them with the basic tools for the social protection, like, being registered so we know where they are, so we can provide them with assistance. That also will allow us to have more openly called and more broadly based transparent processes for the distribution of money for creative scholarships. We also need to improve our ability to provide for infrastructure in peripheral areas. We have very wide gaps between the core areas of the main cities, where you have a wealth of theaters, galleries, which are often at the same level of quality of many industrialized nations. But once you move to the periphery of the cities or to more rural areas, we have strong gaps in access to infrastructure, both physical infrastructure, connectivity, and capabilities for people to formulate and follow up on projects. Of course, we have been creating a set of policies and tools in order to help surpass these challenges. In terms of social safety networks, we have created a specific system for engaging with the elders who have been contributing to culture but have never contributed to a social safety network. So they are, in poverty but recognized, which is quite a contradiction. We have managed to engage to enlist in the program about 7,500 out of 12,000 we have identified around the country with a permanent income. Is not a super income, but is a dignified income that take them out of poverty and recognizes them from the society for their services. We have also realized that we need to engage more co-responsibility from the private sector. So we have been creating a very ambitious set of incentives for investment by the private sector and donations with tax incentives. We have been able to mobilize the largest amounts of international direct investment for the audiovisual sector. And at the same time, we are now engaging with mining companies, oil companies, and manufacturing and services, banking, for instance, to invest in culture, in cultural projects, small and large, just because they make sense for the communities and for the social impact. And we are also now engaging at the subnational levels. For very long time, it's been very difficult to engage locally. Like, you know, national government works one way, department governments work another way, and municipalities another way. Like everybody doing their own stuff, like on their own. We are now putting together our efforts, and I think we have been successful in the last year, thanks to the pandemic precisely. We have all realized we cannot work alone. I mean, we can only face this challenge together, and I think that's created a consciousness that we are determined to make a permanent feature of our national internally coordination.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your very interesting answer and for this inspiring perspective from Colombia. Now I will turn to Ms. Phuong Hoa. Over the last years, Vietnam and UNESCO have worked together on many issues. For example, dividing the country's cultural industry strategy and financing for culture, promoting participatory policy monitoring, and strengthening intellectual property enforcement. Through these projects and other diverse initiatives that Vietnam has taken, what do you think are the significant changes you have noticed in recent years in terms of the economic development propelled by the cultural and creative industries?
Hello, everybody from Vietnam, and it is my great honor and pleasure to take part in the Culture Summit to exchange our views with our honorable speakers on the very interesting questions. And I would like to thank you very much, Mr. Toussaint, if I pronounce your name correctly, for inviting me to these important sessions. And the government of Vietnam highly appreciates support from the UNESCO in the course of our national development, cultural development in general, and especially that of cultural and creative industries. And the most significant achievement that we have gained from our collaboration with UNESCO over the years relating to the culture and creative industries is the change in perception. And culture has been long an ideology in Vietnam, and joining the 2005 UNESCO Convention, we joined very soon in 2007, right after the convention came into effect. So it has brought a new light to the awareness of the Vietnamese leaders and policymakers about the economy of culture, as well as the contribution of cultures in the economy. So, which is exactly the theme of this Culture Summit. And in 2014, the Party Central Committee of Vietnam, the highest entity in our political system, has issued a specialized resolutions on culture to respond to the new requirements for the country's sustainable development, and in which culture was placed equally to politics and economy. And for the first time ever, the development of cultural industries was set out as one of the 5 key missions for cultural development in the new eras. And turning from perception into actions, in 2016, the government put forward a national strategy on the development of cultural industries until 2020 with the Vision 2030. This is a very valuable outcome from UNESCO and Vietnam cooperation. And to realize the objectives in the strategy, we are happy to see more than 50 cities and provinces nationwide develop their own plans to release their strength in the creative and cultural industries. And in 2019, Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, successfully joined the UNESCO Creative City Network with an aim to bringing into full play its creativity and promoting its CCI. So many other cities are now inspired by the move and would like to register as a creative city in the UNESCO network. So it shows the willingness and also commitment of local authorities to an enabling environment for creativity and innovations. And on the ground, a network of creative hubs has come together to be stronger in policy advocacy, peer-to-peer exchange, as well as international cooperations. And today, while listening to the Minister of Colombia, we have learned a lot from your experience. And we think that Colombia is very lucky, since you have the perceptions, very clear understanding from your highest leader, the president, about the importance of the orange economy. And then with his determination and with the very strong assistance from the Ministry of Culture, he turns it into action. And I think it's the key, successful factor for you to spread the orange economy. And during the past 3 years before COVID-19 outbreak, in Vietnam, we witnessed a very dynamic development of cultural market and a vibrant startup movement, which rooted in creativity and innovation. And we are very proud that we met the targets of the cultural and creative industries' contribution to GDP ahead of time. In our national strategy, we set a goal that by 2020, the CCIs would make up like 3% of our GDP. But by the end of 2018, so our independent expert provided the statistical evidence that the Vietnamese cultural and creative industries accounted for more than 3.6% already. So, and let's take an example of the film industry. And Mr. Toussaint, you have the film industry background, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. The revenue of the Vietnamese film art industry also surpassed the target put in the strategies like a year ahead. And many Vietnamese films now hit the box office with a revenue of like 100 billion Vietnam dollars for each. So that's very encouraging, result for the development of our cultural and creative economy that we would like to share with you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Phuong Hoa, for this very, very interesting experience here. And now let me turn to Ms. Akoryo. On 15 April 2020, UNESCO launched the Global Resilience Movement. And since then, more than 240 debates have been organized in more than 110 countries. Ms. Akoryo, I am proud to announce that you were the very first organizer of the Resilience debate in the world, and in total, you have led 5 Resilience debates bringing together diverse cultural and non-cultural actors, such as representatives of the Ugandan embassy in Washington, D.C., or Ugandan business leaders. Why did you decide to embrace the Resilience debates so early on? What motivated you to spearhead the debates? Why do you think the arts and culture community have responded so positively to the Resilience movement? What outcomes do you think Resilience could bring in the long term? Ms. Akoryo, please.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Mr. Toussaint, Your Excellency Pedro, and my colleague Nguyen for being members of this panel. I would like to thank very much the Ministry of Culture in Abu Dhabi, together with UNESCO, for coordinating this Culture Summit, the first of its kind during this COVID pandemic. I would like to, first of all, say that when the impact of COVID was seen in Uganda, our country usually has one of the biggest areas or spaces where performing artists invite a big number of people to see their performances, either in theater or in music. And so we foresaw that the impact would be greatest among the artists, since the space for selling some of their products now physically had shrunk. And therefore, we felt that it's important we raise awareness of the impact of COVID through these resilient arts. Secondly, we felt that it is important through these resilient arts to agree together with the artists on the practicable interventions for sustaining the economic welfare of the artists, since now, during COVID, most of them were not able to physically sell their products, and we didn't have digital markets. And so I was motivated to take the first leap into space because I realized that in my country, the sector has the greatest potential, but it's not a priority for the time being. And therefore, this was an opportunity for me to raise awareness about the importance of this sector and how it can contribute. And indeed, during the time of the COVID pandemic, most of the artists' works were being played on television, and it is what kept the people cohesive in their families and entertained them and communicated about the pandemic, because individuals still went out and had the activities on television and on radio. Secondly, I was motivated because according to the conventions of UNESCO, to which Uganda is a party, Article 9, especially of the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions, is the article on information sharing. So I felt that we could share Uganda's situation with other countries, and Uganda could benefit with other countries on what they are doing in view of the pandemic. Now, in view of why the arts and culture responded positively to the resilient art debate, one, we wanted to ensure that we hear the voices of these people effectively participating in policy debates on issues that affect them. And so we went out looking for these stakeholders to hear their position on this. But secondly, we realized that there was limited knowledge of what is happening in the whole world. And therefore we felt this was an opportunity that the artists could use, and most of them came on board. And thirdly, we wanted to know if there were markets out there that these people could benefit from, because in my country, the data costs were very, very expensive. And the only way we could share experiences is to hear how other countries are doing it. Then when we come to the outcomes that this resilient art could bring in the long run, we feel that it might bring about a global digital market, which can empower the artists socially and economically, and also ensure protection of their works. In my country at the moment, we still have challenges of piracy, and many artists are losing income, and economically they are not doing well. So we believe that in the long run, worldwide, we might have that global digital market. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Akoryo, for this information, and we are very, very proud to count on your collaboration and for the Resilient movement. And now I will turn back to Mr. Buitrago. Your Excellency, Retina Latina is a project that develops activities to generate digital cultural spaces, and it received the support of UNESCO through its International Fund for Cultural Diversity. This regional platform, covering 6 countries in Latin America, is a good example of regional cooperation. Could you tell us how the idea of Retina Latina comes about? What kind of framework has been put in place to support fair remuneration of artists and cultural professionals working in the film sector? What is the value of regional cooperation within the creative economy? Your Excellencies, please.
Many thanks, Toussaint. Well, we are very proud of Retina Latina, and as all great ideas, they are the brainchilds of a lot of people. In this case, the commitment of authorities of 6 countries that over more than 4 years exchange ideas, and at some point they found in the Inter-American Development Bank a partner to finance that dream and make it a reality. Back then at the IDB was our president, Ivan Duque. He fell in love with this project, and together with authorities from Colombia, Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Uruguay, made Retina Latina a reality. And Retina Latina today is a platform. It's probably the only OTT for video streaming, especially for movies which are independent, that is multilateral. It's actually public and from many countries. We have had more than 3.5 million visitors, and today we are having over 280,000 visitors per month to consume our movies. We have had more than 600 movies in our platform. Usually we have over 200 movies from our 6 countries. We often hold like screenings from other countries. We have done so with Chile and with Paraguay, and we are aiming at engaging with more countries. And actually, because of a mandate from President Duque, since a year ago, we have been working on expanding the platform to become an Ibero-American platform. So we are finding ways to have different memberships for different countries, because not all countries have a stock of films that justifies to pay a full fee, and other countries maybe are not part of the Ibero-American group, but are interested in participating, like Italy or France. So we're finding ways to engage more countries and make this a really open global platform, aiming precisely at fulfilling a gap in the supply of content globally, which is independent film content. Every country usually has, some big blockbusters. Mm-hmm. And they are great nationally, and often they find spaces in international festivals and even international markets. So in Colombia, in 2019, before the pandemic, we had 48 movies produced in the country, but only maybe 4 or 5 had some market impact. The others are telling stories which are on the fringes of niche markets. They represent communities, they represent minorities, they represent different points of view, and they are very important stories which are actually at the heart of the 2005 convention. So these platforms are not for mainstream movies. They are for the movies and the contents which are at the fringes and that require a voice, a space to be shared with the world. So we are happy and we are very proud of having this platform. We are happy that we are not the owners of it. We are happy that we are just part of it, and that we have committed partners in other countries and increasingly in international organizations, because we all share the commitment of healthy creative economy, great industries with great market success, but also committed with diversity and with having a space which is concentrated in promoting these contents which are not the mainstream but are important voices of our diversity. So we are happy with this, and we are looking forward to the next steps in consolidating this platform and inviting other countries to share this platform with us. without making too many consultations internally, I would love to have us at some point, some partnerships to show some movies from Uganda or Vietnam in our platform.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. This is a good proposal, so we'll make sure to follow up on it. So let me turn back to Ms. Phuong Hoa. And since 2019, UNESCO has been supporting Vietnam to develop its film industry through the project mobilizing film professionals for regional cooperation in Asia. Its aim to strengthen the capacities of Vietnamese filmmakers and film professionals, and also encourage regional cooperation and gender equality. Do you think that this project could enable Vietnamese films to access the global market? What do you think needs to be done to strengthen regional and international cooperation to achieve a more balanced flow of cultural goods and services and to ensure the diversity and accessibility of cultural contents? Please.
Thank you very much for your interesting questions. And you know that in Vietnam, the project is branded as E-motions. So for E, we have three implications. The first is in empowerment. We would like to focus on empowerment of film professionals and also policymakers while enhancing national policy and also regional cooperations. And second is in equality, that we would like to aim to promote gender equality in contents and creation exchanges, and also engage Vietnamese filmmakers along the process. And third is in electronic, as we are now in the digital eras. So the project has been launched in July last year, after the inception period for national consultancy and research. And so far, it has carried out some online activities only due to the COVID. So it is too early for me to say about the results of the project, but definitely its response to the needs of the sector. And it is a catalyst for Vietnamese film industries to be resilient and to stay connected to the wider regional and also international network. And for us, we think that in order to develop a film industries, first, we need good films. And therefore, capacity building and empowerment for Vietnamese filmmakers are very, very important. And we are proud to say that recently films by talented young Vietnamese filmmakers have gained some recognitions, some high awards in international film festivals. So that is regard to, independent or art house film. But regarding to the mainstream films and the market access in 2019, it is for the first time that we had one Vietnamese film, the Fury, Hai Phượng in Vietnamese, released in North America cinemas in parallel with the domestic screening. So, but then it came COVID-19 and it had changed totally the cultural consumption habit. So we have to go online. But so far, there have been, over 70 Vietnamese films available on Netflix. And I don't know if Excellency Minister Pedros have ever seen that movie, but it is reported from Netflix that the Vietnamese film, The Fury, had more viewers from Latin America than Southeast Asia regions. But, as far as I know, very few countries have regulations on the new business models, such for, the online platforms such as Netflix. So, and not any filmmakers nor producer can make a deal with this giant corporate. And I think that in order to ensure the diversity of cultural contents, So then government should play an important role here in regulating the operation of online platforms to make cultural goods and services from developing countries accessible to wider customers. And at the national level, Vietnam also share the same experience as Colombia. We have been making great effort to develop our own, online platform. And last month, during our Lunar New Year, for the first time ever, a Vietnamese Film Week was launched on Buitrago, which is the new online platform of the Vietnam national televisions. And we also think that it is important and it is about time for government, to strengthen their cooperation, to set up framework for co-productions. And also regional platforms should be reinforced for regular exchanges and intra-regional trade. And in the Southeast Asia region, Vietnam initiated an ASEAN's Film Awards to present to the public the talents of ASEAN filmmakers in, like 3 years ago. And we also aim to brand our Hanoi International Film Festival as a major cultural event in the region. And we also would like to invite Colombian films or Uganda films to participate in our International Film Festival. And finally, I think recently we heard from our industry that the Vietnam Film Promotion and Development Associations in collaboration with VTV Digital and also NetPark, the Network for Promotion of Asian Films, is planning to launch Asia Film Awards. So, to be an annual prize for excellent regional filmmakers. And at international level, we think that it is important that the UNESCO Convention 2005, which called for developed countries to grant preferential treatment to developing countries to access to their markets, so should be strengthened. We should make it happen in real life. So sorry for being very long because you have very, very interesting question and very big questions.
Thank you very much. And I'm very, very happy to notice that this panel discussion give us a lack of space for more collaboration with 3 continents, Asia, Latin America, and Africa on the film industry. This is something great. So come back to Ms. Akoryo. One of the biggest consequences of COVID-19 on the creative sector has been an accelerated transition to the digital. In the face of the lockdown and closures of cultural venues, the digital has been one of the few ways for artists and audiences to stay connected. I have heard that thanks to various recommendations expressed through resilient debates, you investigate the possibility of establishing a government-subsidized online platform to enable Ugandan filmmakers to make their films available on the platform for free, while Ugandan audiences can download Ugandan films at an affordable cost. This is an incredibly and inspiring initiative. I understand that through UNESCO projects on participatory policy monitoring, funded by Sweden, and creating a regulatory framework of the film sector, funded by the European Union, Uganda has created a fertile ground for various stakeholders to collaborate with each other. Could you tell us more about how you went about bringing different stakeholders together to enable this online platform for Ugandan films? What motivated you? Who did you contact from other public sectors? Is there any private sector involvement? What business model is adapted to ensure the sustainability of this online platform? How did UNESCO project help enable this initiative to take off? Please, Mr. Akoryo.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I would like to give a vote of thanks also to my colleagues, His Excellency Pedro and Nguyen, for saying let's network to have our films out there. We are ready to partner with you. Our platform for films is called Yo TV, and this is a platform which is supposed to be launched by the end of this month, but we've already done the testing of the films that can be put on that platform. So during the Resili Art debates, we invited stakeholders to come and present, and one of the challenges they presented was that the data is very expensive to upload the film onto a platform. But also through the EU Uganda, EU UNESCO support, we realized that we don't have Ugandan films on those other platforms like Sportif and others. So we felt this was an opportunity, and therefore, after the Resili Art, we continued with engagements of the public and the private sector through physical meetings and online meetings. Through these online meetings, we are able to draw our terms of reference, and then we agreed on who should do what activity. And I was motivated because for the last 3 years, I was working with the filmmakers who had been struggling on how to get their products out into the market. And when this opportunity presented itself, I said, this is the way to go. On the body which I contacted, we contacted what we call the Uganda Information Technology Authority. And this authority is the one in charge of ensuring that data is provided for many stakeholders, and there is what they call the Ugandan data backbone. So this is a public authority. Then we have the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, which is in charge of copyright, because it was the second challenge affecting the artists. And then we also contacted Makerere University. On the private sector involvement, yes, we have private sector involved. What the government did was to ensure we set up this platform, but the private sector is what we call Palwood, which is an umbrella body for the filmmakers. And this umbrella body has producers, actors, publishers, distributors, and exhibitors. They were already organized in their sector. So what the government will do is to just supervise and monitor. And then the private sector umbrella body, Palwood, will be the one in charge of uploading the films, getting the money, and supporting one another to register others who want to join. In terms of how we can sustain this activity, what we have already agreed with government is that the artists will not pay for data. So the data will be free, and what a person can do is only pay for the film that they are going to watch, and that film is for 24 hours. So that is about $1 for the whole day for someone to watch one film. And then secondly, we are also going to continue supporting these people, the filmmakers, by ensuring that we have background, what they call background data, and they are going to show us the number of films, the income they are getting, the challenges they are facing, so that we can use this to inform policy and get more support for them. So thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Akoryo. Time is running so fast, so we have come now to the last round of questions. So please be brief in only 2 minutes to provide your answer for the last question I'm going to ask. Your Excellency, as mentioned earlier, in the year 2021 has been declared by the United Nations as the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. And Colombia, along with other countries, led the draft resolution to adoption. Why was it important for Colombia to have this international year declared, and what are you expecting for this international cooperation for the creative economy, especially after this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, thank you, Toussaint. The challenge is clear. 2020 and the pandemic has been the greatest challenge for the culture and creative sector in centuries, probably. The contraction of household consumption worldwide has been massive. Unemployment and the displacement of capabilities is a latent risk. We are really worried that many artists or technical professionals or technicians, in order to survive, are moving to other industries and sectors, and that will mean a brain drain for the sector. So international cooperation here is key. We are trying to lead and set up an alliance of countries to share experiences, but also to join efforts, because this is a global challenge, so it cannot be faced with local responses. We need global coordination in order to ensure that we protect the saberes, the knowledge behind cultural creation, artistic creation, heritage protection and promotion. Diversity here is key, and is not only about having languages or experiences or traditions. It's also about knowledges that are based on how to translate our culture into goods and services that make lives people better. And right now we have disrupted all those connections because of the pandemic. It of course presents us with an opportunity to reflect on what we have been doing wrong for decades, and to make corrections. But that does not mean that there's a real risk and a real challenge in surpassing these things. So we have been setting up as fast as we can support mechanisms for artists. Of course, the scope and the size of the pandemic makes it like everything looks like it's nothing, but it is something, and it is important. And I think that what we need the most is people not getting discouraged because there's still a trouble. We have to work on all levels with all our efforts to make sure that we can support as much people as we can, and that we can rescue back to the sector as much people as we can. We cannot afford to lose the experience of people who have been working for decades in the cultural sector, and now, because of survival reasons, need to move to other sectors. So we are going to be depleted of that experience. So I guess we have that big challenge. And we need to face it globally. So I think spaces like this conversation, the leadership of UNESCO, and the call of action of the International Year for the creative economy, for sustainable development, is very pertinent, because this is the year where we need to focus minds and to understand we need to save the creative economy in the world, but also to turn it into the main engine for development in the 21st century. We need to move decisively from economies which are based on raw material exploitation, which are going to be always there, but we need to focus our value creation on knowledge. And culture and creative economy is the core base of knowledge creation and an intangible, immaterial wealth in the world. So this is very pertinent, and is very well aligned with the vision of President Iván Duque, which is completely, as it has been stated, is completely convinced on the important role of culture in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for having underlined this important aspect. So back to Ms. Phuong Hoa. Please be brief, because time is running very, very fast. Ms. Phuong Hoa, in the aftermath of the pandemic, the future of the creative economy seems digital. Beyond this change in the cultural consumption pattern and market globalization, what action do you think need to be implemented at the international level to support states and guarantee the diversity of cultural expressions and access to cultural goods and services? What would you like the future of the creative economy to look like?
Well, as the future of creative economy goes digital, so it is of utmost importance that protect creative works in the digital environment. Ensure, the IPR remunerations for creators by accessions or adherence to WIPO treaties, the WIPO copyright treaty, and the WIPO performances and phonogram treaties that respond to IPR protection in digital world. So it is important. But I also think that it is equally essential to guarantee fair use for the public and freedom of expression and creation for creator on the internet. So the people take liberty to create, to make derivative, works or innovate without any fear of violating the IPR. So I think it's important. And we should continue to uphold the spirit of the UNESCO's Convention 2005 in free trade negotiations to guarantee access to cultural goods and services and to ensure the cultural diversity. And we should also reinforce and raise more funding for IFCD. I think it's important to, run the projects to nurture creative industry in developing countries. And witnessing recent conflict between Facebook and Australian government, we can see that big tech corporates are threatening the sovereign rights of the states. So while online platforms are making huge money from cross-border operation, government could not collect tax from activity happening in their jurisdiction. So I think it is now time for nations coming together at the international level to regulate, big corporates in a legal instruments, or at least a code of conduct to ensure the sovereign rights of a nation and also the cultural rights of their citizens. And finally, I would like to see a future of creative economy that offers the variety of cultural goods and services from all over the world for the customer to choose freely, and artists and creators can earn their living from their creations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now back to Ms. Akoryo for the last question. And the pandemic has drastically exacerbated the precarity of artists and cultural professionals. During this International Year of Creative Economy, the creative sector has an unprecedented opportunity to make our case heard, not only within the creative sector itself, but also within wider socio-economic sectors. I should also like to mention that the year 2021 has been declared as the Year of Arts, Culture and Heritage by the African Union. In your opinion, what regional actions could be undertaken by the African Union, for example? Please, to be brief.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. If the African Union could establish a platform for marketing of cultural goods and services, and that would be good for all the African countries so that we are able to see and buy from there. I would like now to thank UNESCO, and like to thank you, Chair, Your Excellency, thank the government of Abu Dhabi, to thank all my colleagues, the panelists, especially Your Excellency Pedro. Thank you very much. I wish you well.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have come to the end of this discussion, and to wrap up, I would like to recall that we have heard today that the creative economy contributes to the economic development of countries and to the sustainable development goals. During this discussion, we heard about the measures put in place in Latin America, in Asia, and in Africa to ensure the diversity of cultural expressions, allowing for artists to be fairly remunerated. We have also heard about alternative solutions, particularly in the digital environment. UNESCO has developed an open roadmap to help parties to meet the challenges and seize the opportunities in the digital environments where cultural goods and services are created, produced, distributed, disseminated, consumed, and or stored in digital form. And we call on all stakeholders to share information on its implementation. Thank you once again to our panelists and to you all, our audience, for watching this online session of the Abu Dhabi Culture Summit 2021. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much and goodbye.
Bye.